hear me?
If you can speak up a little bit, that would be great.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Love the initiative. I'm glad we are looking into this problem, but it's very concerning listening to the presentation from you, Dr. Greenberg, on not having answers to very basic questions like nobody's looked into the safety of the children or safety of the community. And it's a decision that seems to have been taken in an isolation to just fulfill the needs of your immediate project, but not the community per se in general. So I echo the sentiments of everyone who's voicing that. That's number one. And it seemed like this was originally dressed as a low income community for families, but it's more for a slightly different demographics, which has a pretty big impact on the community around us. One thing that has probably not come up as much is who is funding for added support for mental health support or for violence control or traffic management or just general increased need for law and order, which there are a lot of studies out there which you can refer to is a need in a community when something like this is introduced. How would that be funded, or would it just be left on its own to be funded, which is what ends up happening in a lot of communities, which is where these concerns are also coming from. These projects come up, but then the necessary infrastructure to support that is not funded, which is very alarming, right? And again, just to reiterate my point, it is very, very concerning that basic research of the area, the impact on the children who walk there to their schools, just the basic knowledge that how many schools are even in that area has not been conducted before making this decision. So I think this is a very poorly made, uninformed decision. Can't say that any more clearly. But I think I echo the sentiments of a lot of people who we've talked to over the last several days. I'll rest my comment here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I did post in the Q&A, and I'm sorry for that. As a resident of the Pomeroy West condominium on the corner of Pomeroy and Benton, I would like to go on record saying that I'm thoroughly opposed to this project. I know it smacks of NIMBYism, but and not everyone agrees with me, but I can't believe that there aren't more suitable locations for this facility in the whole of Santa Clara County. The current proposal places the project much too close to residents, businesses, and schools. I'm already being panhandled on a daily basis at Walgreens, every 7-Eleven, Safeway, the dollar store, and busy intersections at a stoplight. Locating a homeless shelter at the corner of Lawrence and Benton will only compound the problem. I think there will also be a negative impact on property values in the area, a probable increase in crime, and the exposure of drug-using mentally ill individuals to school children. There's already a Covenant House and Bill Wilson Center in this area providing services to the unhoused, not to mention 4 Life Move facilities in Santa Clara County. I believe there is also a converted motel on El Camino that serves as a small shelter, and we've already talked about the transformation of the Bella Vista Inn. I realize there's no easy solutions to the homeless crisis, but the true irony of the situation is that the people who need help the most, the mentally ill and the drug addicted, are the most resistant to these social services. The proposed facility at the corner of Lawrence and Benton is not needed, not wanted, and not practical for the residents of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. We will move on to Melinda. And we have 27 others with their raised hand. Thank you. Melinda, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Elisa. I'm sharing the screen with my mom. I'm 27 years old, and we are strongly in favor of this proposal. Empathy and compassion are important regardless of differences we have with people, and this would be a fantastic use of space. Several years ago, I had a friend who was unhoused here in Santa Clara. I met him while we were both in the hospital undergoing treatment for mental health services. The only difference between the two of us was that I had the privilege of a supportive family that had an available bed, and he did not. Mental health should never be a barrier poor access to basic human rights. I would challenge you to find a group of 10 people and find even one that does not have some sort of mental health condition. You already have neighbors who have depression, bipolar, OCD, schizophrenia, BPD, and substance abuse conditions. Giving people a place to sleep at night will improve their mental health and provide additional resources for those who need it. My friend spent his days at the library or the park and his evenings running around trying to find a sheltered place to sleep at night. He stood in lines, he slept on yoga mats, and he even slept in my own car. He wanted to spend his time applying for jobs, but he was unable to because those employers required an address on their application forms and later on to register for benefits of employment. Having even temporary addresses can be the difference between employment and therefore income and the ability to support themselves or staying on the streets. Also, as far as concerns about residents with criminal records, I have several friends who also have criminal records. Friends that have DUIs, friends that got into something they shouldn't have in college, and even a good friend who was in prison for 17 years. That specific friend is one of the kindest, smartest, most empathetic people I know. Criminals are not inherently bad people, and all people are capable of recovery and growth. Additionally, if a person is actively seeking out housing in a project like this, that they are trying to help themselves and better their situations. As their neighbors, we should support and encourage people who are trying to better themselves. We think that this is a fantastic use of space that is generally unused. It's essentially walking distance to the library, multiple parks, a church, grocery stores, convenience stores, making it an ideal location for someone who does not have other means of transportation. In conclusion, my mom and I are very strongly in favor of this project. We would be thrilled to know that this is where our tax dollars are going, as we want to be able to help people. We would be proud to be part of a city that takes care of its own. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The next speaker, Bill, can we please unmute Bill? Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, hi. Yeah, my name's Bill. I also wanted to voice my strong support for this project. My wife is a school teacher, and then I have two small children. One attends Laurelwood Elementary, and again, we just feel like this is actually a really good community for housing, and we're excited to see low-income housing and interim housing being built. And then the other suggestion I had, I was at the school board meeting last week, and they have a 2-minute time limit for comments, and I think you guys might consider something like that. Anyways, and then my question was just as a resident who is excited and wanted to show support, I just want to know what are other ways that we could show support for this project, or how as a community we could welcome this project and make sure it's successful and safe for everyone.
Thank you. Next we have John. Go ahead, John.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I did work for a company that is next door to the shelter that was built in Mountain View. And I worked there since 1999. And after that shelter went in, there was increased problem with alcohol bottles left everywhere, people in the company parking lots drinking. There was no parking on the streets, and they actually had to hire security to keep things from disappearing in the parking lot, like the basketball hoop and things of that nature. That's in an industrial area. I can't imagine how this would affect people in a residential area. These people are going to be out during the day, and they're going to go somewhere. How are you going to provide some kind of way to keep this from happening in our neighborhoods? That's it.
Thank you, John. Next we have Mudita. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to basically also oppose it very strongly. I think it's alarming to hear that in this really expensive neighborhood, there are $2 million houses here, and you're saying you can't get a better return on investment in finding another lot somewhere. I mean, I just cannot understand how that is possible. You would, in fact, get a much better return on investment to buy a property somewhere else, which has much cheaper real estate than this area and is more suited for it. The other thing I want to say is, if you really look around, this is an area where a lot of immigrants are moving in, and both the parents are working. When I was working I have two daughters. My older one, when she started going to middle school, she would have to walk home alone, and just knowing that the neighborhood is safe, gave me many sleepless nights. Like, in spite of that, I had so many sleepless nights just imagining that my daughter would be coming home alone by herself. And over the years, I have gotten more comfortable with the neighborhood. I felt like, okay, I know it, I feel it. But I mean, this is just absurd that we are converting Santa Clara into a neighborhood which families are not going to consider safe for themselves. Working parents, they are highly invested in the safety of their kids and of their parents. Safety is the number one concern of a community. And if we want to make Santa Clara be that place where local businesses don't thrive because, families are moving away, they don't consider it safe. I really don't see the benefit in it. Like, we want to help homeless. Nobody's saying that we are against, poor people, like how somebody else was saying. It's not about that. It's about the mental instability and drugs. And leaving our young kids, a very populated young kid neighborhood, making that vulnerable. So I just, I'm really, I hope you guys listen and do something about it, because what you might not realize is that in a matter of 5 years, 7 years, the landscape will change. People will not move here. To buy, the property prices that are here in this area, people are not going to compromise on safety of their kids. And it's going to become a very different place. Maybe 10 years, whatever you're thinking, but I can tell you it's going to go fast, because for immigrants, and especially for so many Asians that are there literally in the call, I'm noticing how many are Asian names. Why somebody moves from another country to the US is for providing a better living to their families and to be safe. And mental instability is not something you can joke around with immigrants. You see how much crime is happening in schools all over the US with older population.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, thanks.
Next we have David. Go ahead, David. David, can you unmute yourself?
Oops, sorry, I was double muted. Can you hear me?
No worries. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So just a couple of things, not to belittle other points. I don't know if you're aware, but the corner of Lawrence Expressway and El Camino has been under massive property development for some time now. One corner has already been massively developed into a 6-story complex. The other corner is where the Bella Vista site is, which is already being turned into a shelter, which seems to be oversaturating homeless support in our neighborhood, which seems to be difficult. And then the other two corners are also being actively planned for major development too. So it seems like Birdland neighborhood is really becoming a dumping ground here for some of Santa Clara's unwanted projects. The other things that I have, the difficult thing, and I want to reiterate, that corner of Lawrence and Expressway is extremely dangerous. There's a lot of high-speed traffic at that corner. There is no access off of Lawrence. It has to be off of Benton. It's a very odd shape. It would be very difficult to access. And then ultimately, there is no services in this area. Yes, there is Kaiser Hospital, but beyond that, there's no other services. I wouldn't understand why it wouldn't be better suited to be something around, say, the police station, City Hall, 49er Stadium, other places that have services. And to the other lady's point, I agree, property prices here are very expensive. That's a very expensive parcel, which would probably be better suited for others' purposes, to get it around to other people and maybe distribute this. I get it, homeless is a real difficult situation, but not to put it all in one place like this. This is a bit unfair for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We're going to take just one more raised hand, and then we will share with you the next steps. MC, can you please unmute?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Why are you guys picking and choosing which questions to answer? I see you brushing off a whole bunch of questions. Would you be answering all these questions at a later time, or you're just going to ignore those questions?
Yes, MC, I was trying to go through the list and get some of the questions answered now while folks were chiming in. But we will be posting every single question. Just to give you a sense, there are 324 open questions, and I have answered 18 of them, either answered live or I typed in a response. Both the open and the answered questions will be posted.
Yeah, and then the way you are running it, I feel that it's not being done in good faith. You are just skipping all the questions. I mean, whoever it is for or against doesn't matter, but at least you should actually be answering all the questions, right? We are paying taxes. We are actually paying you. You should be accountable MC, for us, yes, right?
Absolutely, MC. We're trying to manage the questions and we're only answering those that have a relatively short answer. When we come back for meeting number 2, we will have more opportunity to hear from everybody and answer the questions.
Yeah, I mean, people are asking basic questions. What was the research that was done? No answer.
MC,
why is that?
If you have comments to share, please go ahead. Otherwise, we will give Tim the opportunity to chime in.
Sure.
Thank you. Tim, go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, Tim, go ahead.
Okay, so I think my question is mostly related to, maybe I was wrong, but I heard that there's going to be at least one staff. There's 80 to 120 units there. How can one staff be able to hold, people who possibly has mental issues, has criminal records, might have violence background? How do people, how does one staff handle all these people, right? The other thing is, how about people who has other records like pedophilia, right? We have 5 elementary schools, as I can find, like in these areas, right? You have countless home base, and also there's kindercare here, those daycares. I think, honestly, I'm a little bit disappointed that no research has been done to an area that has so many kids. And then you're building 80 to 120 units with only one staff at all time. So I hope that these kind of questions can be answered. The other thing I want to, talk about, I heard the other, lady, she has experience with people who are unfortunately homeless. I also had grad school friends who were homeless at one point because they were illegal immigrant. I sympathize with those people, and to be honest, I don't mind at all supporting them. But the problem right now we're talking about is not them. The thing that we're talking about is people who has mental illness, criminal records, possible violence background. We're not talking about people who try really hard to get out of the situation, at least not right now. So somebody has to help them getting out of the situation before you can talk about integrating them back to the society. Leave alone having this kind of people around all the kids that can be traumatized if something happens. And then let me ask you, what kind of management company will be responsible for this if some kids were traumatized by these people? Firing management company is not the answer because the kids can be traumatized for life. And I have witnessed a situation like that when I was young. I resonate with the other lady who talked about immigrant countries and stuff. Yes, I have seen this happen before. And then part of the reason, yes, when an immigrant to this country is to be safe. So I know that there are a lot of good people out there who are homeless because of unfortunate situations. But I have also witnessed situation that's the other way. So that's my comments.
Thank you. And apologies to the rest of the folks. We are out of time. I'm going to share my screen one more time to talk about the next steps.